Everyone, welcome. Thanks for coming today. Appreciate you all being here.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the City of Boston's Reparations Task Force. Welcome you to this meeting. Thank you for joining us. At today's meeting, we have 4 means of interpretation: Spanish, Cape Verde Creole, Haitian Creole, and of course, we have it in English. Before we get started, we'd like to make sure everyone can access the appropriate language channels. And to do this, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom window and select the language of your choice. If you experience problems with interpretation during the meeting, please send a message to chat via the chat. I don't believe that Maya Getter is on, but via the chat to one of our co-hosts, and we will do our best to assist you. If you do not need interpretation services, please select the English channel. I would now like to ask our interpreters to please provide the announcements in their respective languages. I'm going to ask Esther, can you give yours in Haitian Creole, please?
Bonsoir tout le monde et merci parce que nous venons dans la rencontre que nous gagnons là pour réparation et groupe de travail que nous gagnons dans la ville de Boston et que nous disons bienvenue à tout le monde et que nous gagnons un service de transportation qui est disponible et dans 4 différentes langues qui c'est créole, espagnol et disons 3 créole, espagnol avec Cap-Verde, anglais. Donc, vous êtes capable de choisir dans la langue où vous voulez attendre réunion, ou choisir la langue où vous voulez, ou cliquer sur lui pour capable attendre réunion. Merci beaucoup. I'm done.
Merci beaucoup, Esther. And now, Claudio, yes, can I have Lourdes in Cape Verdean, please?
Ok. Boa noite, tudo alguém. Obrigado que nos junta a nós hoje. No evento de hoje, não tem disponível serviços de interpretação na espanhol, na crioulo cabo-verdiano e também na crioulo haitiano. Antes de no começar, não tem certeza que nós tudo pode ter acesso a canais de idioma apropriado. Como não tem interpretação ativa para sessão, tudo para nós pode juntar com nós, no nosso computador ou aplicativo de Zoom, nós deve selecionar um canal de língua. Então, para entrar, para entrar na reunião na crioulo, vai na barra de controle horizontal, na parte inferior do computador, bota carga onde que está a interpretação, ou bota carga onde que tem um globo. Depois, a hora que eu carga na globo interpretação, bota carga na idioma que eu crio ouve. Nesse caso, bota escolhe crioulo cabo-verdiano. A hora que já entra, já bota consegue ouvir na própria língua. Muito obrigada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lourdes. And Claudio en español.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Para tener acceso a la interpretación, cuando esta comience, usted va a ver el icono de un globo en la parte de abajo de la pantalla de Zoom. Le va a hacer clic ahí y escoger español. Si está en una tableta, en un celular, lo vendrá en los 3 puntos en la parte izquierda de la pantalla. Hágale seguimiento a ese lenguaje y asegúrese de escribirle done o OK para que funcione. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gracias, Claudio. Next slide, please. Before we begin, we wanted to inform everyone that today's meeting will be recorded. We will be posting the recording on boston.gov. We also upload meeting minutes from our note takers to the website. We appreciate your participation this evening. Just a reminder that the Reparations Task Force was formed via ordinance and is a public body. All meetings of the task force are subject to the open meeting laws. We will make the chat available once we open the floor for public comment, which will be towards the end of the meeting. I'm looking and if there are any elected officials that are present at the meeting, can they please make themselves known, because I can't tell on screen. But if there are, please announce yourselves, and we welcome you to this meeting. All right. This is the agenda for this evening's meeting. We just had the notice of the accommodations and interpreters introductions. I'm about to call the meeting to order and take the roll call of the members of the task force. We will have a presentation of the minutes of prior meetings to this evening. We will be discussing and have a motion regarding standard operating procedures of the task force. So to a large extent, this is a meeting of the administrative aspects of how the task force will operate, and that is consistent with the ordinance. So with that being said, I'll take a roll call of the members of the task force. Lamerchi Frazier. Will you acknowledge yourselves if you are present, and let me know that you are here? Thank you very much. George Greenwich. Is George Greenwich present?
I believe he is. I think he was having problems with his phone, so he may not be able to speak.
All right. Well, I see his name on the screen. I will take it. Hopefully he will get that corrected and be able to respond. Dorothea Jones.
Here.
Carrie Mays.
Here.
And Joseph Feaster here. Those are the members of the task force that I see. I will just read the other names of the members of the task force. Denelson Fanfan. Natisha Mills. Damani Williams. All right. The minutes of the meeting, Maggie, is that something that you could walk the task force members through? In terms of, I know they have received those minutes, or is it going to be you, RJ? They're going to walk the task force, or you, Mary and Jelly? I don't know which one of you are going to be the ones who's going to walk through the minutes. I know that the task force members have received it and were to provide comments back to you and as far as the city staff. So
I'm going to pass it to Maggie for this one, Chair.
Okay, so therefore, why don't we, in terms of do that, what was the process that you were going to do in order to present the approval of the minutes, Maggie?
Yes, so as you said, Chair Feaster, we sent out the minutes from all the previous meetings that the task force has had thus far about 2.5 weeks ago to the task force members as part of some new standard procedures we're going to be doing moving forward. And a special shout out to George for really keeping us on track with this. We have all the notes from the prior meetings that were posted online. We got some feedback from the members, and we're going to go through some general feedback that we got that applies to all the minutes generally, and then some more specific notes that we received from members on the specific dates. So if we could go to the next slide, Ajay. So these are just some more general edits that we got back. Starting with just kind of, we're going to be doing a higher level of detail moving forward just for efficiency from the note taker side, making sure that we're not leaving room for too much error while still allowing for a good level of notes from each meeting. And we'll also be posting the recording so people can refer back to that. There were some spelling and formality errors just from people typing quickly. And we've proposed a new format, which I think will show after I go through all of these, but just a little header with the equity and inclusion logo. It'll say draft as a watermark in the background until things are approved. And then it was also proposed by George to not put the minutes with the official header until the task force votes to approve it. So that's something we can discuss. Other general notes were just putting TFM for task force member before writing down any remarks from a member for clarity. George also proposed putting the name of the note taker on the document. And Dorothea proposed having the names of any community members that provide public comment on the minutes. So going into more specific notes, we have for May 3rd, for the May 3rd meeting, which was quite a while ago now, we are just missing the name of one youth task force member who was in attendance. So we're just going to add that on. I don't see there being an issue with that. Moving to the next one. So the June 7th, and just a quick note, we're aware that there are notes from the May 17th meeting. They're going to need a lot more revision before we're able to send them out for task force feedback. So we'll be sending that out before the next meeting. For the June 7th meeting, George requested that more context be added on some remarks he made regarding the promotion of the June 7th meeting and the names of some influential figures in the reparations space. Yeah, so he just requested that there be some more context on that added. And then for July 13th, we didn't receive any specific edits to that. It was just the general format. September 20th was the same, no specific content related edits. And then for the most recent meeting, February 6th, George requested again that some more context be added on some remarks he made regarding motions that he's put forth in the past and the need for community engagement strategies that we will be adding in. That is all for that. And then I believe it's back to you, Chair.
All right, well, I guess the process that we have, I want to get a sense of the task force members. The customarily with a task force, if the minutes have been taken, reviewed, and submitted, the question is whether we need to have a formal vote in order to accept the minutes. If that's the desire of the task force members, we can do that. So if there is, I ask for a task force member, if that's the wish of the task force members, to put forward a motion with regards to these minutes that have just been received by you. Comments were made, edits were made, and these will be the minutes that will be reflected and posted on the website. So if there's need for motion, I'll take a motion, and if I get a second, then we can have a discussion if that's necessary. So is there a motion? All right, then I'm just going to put to play that the minutes have been reviewed by the task force members. They have been edited.
Marcia, I think you were trying to unmute. Sorry, I just.
Yes, I tried to unmute in time, but I was going to say that I move that we have a vote for acceptance of the minutes as a is this for a procedure?
Oh yeah, well, George, that's what I said. I mean,
Yes.
If that's the wish of the task force members to have, that we have to vote the minutes in, as opposed to having the minutes reviewed by you and the staff being told of what the concern, what any issues you have. But fine, I'll take a vote. So let's have it in terms of need of a motion and a second, and we can go from there.
This is Dorothea Jones. I'll second the motion.
Well, did Lamerchi make a motion? She asked a question.
Okay.
Okay.
It was a motion question.
Okay. Okay. So you're moving at the acceptance of the minutes of the prior meetings that were mentioned, that were read by Maggie Corman?
Yes.
Okay. And Dorothea, you second that?
Yes.
Okay, any question on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. The motion, the minutes have been approved and will be posted as indicated. All right, we want to, I believe that, can we bring up, thank you very much, Maggie, for your work. Thank you, fellow task force members. There's been some discussion that was discussed, okay, about these, our processes. And so what was proposed in conversations with the staff, and I believe that each of you, the task force members, received the standard operating procedures, which we're putting forward for a way in which we can conduct our business. And so I'm prepared to have a discussion. If you have any questions regarding that particular document, I believe all of you did receive it. So let's have a discussion. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Was there any revisions? Is it fine? What do the task force members feel regarding it?
1 second, Chair. I think George was trying to unmute for a second. Now he's
Okay, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm having major technical difficulties and I wasn't able to be on the last vote.
I'm sorry, George.
I'm having.
Yeah, do you want to comment on your, why don't you come, you want to comment on your phone?
Hello?
Just come in on your phone.
Oh, we can hear you, George, I
Okay,
think.
yeah. Okay, can somebody, it says,
Hello? Can you hear me?
okay, we can hear you now.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to get on the last, can you roll call what the vote was at the last minute? I didn't even get a chance to vote.
Okay, well, in terms.
Because I couldn't unmute myself.
Okay.
It said the
All
chair
right.
was muting it.
The vote, the motion that was put forward was to accept and to the minutes of the prior meetings that were read by Maggie Corman. The motion was made by member Lamerci Frazier and seconded by member Dorothea Jones. I called for the vote. I asked for all those in favor. There were those who said aye. I asked for those who were opposed. There were none, and I asked for any abstentions. So do you want your vote recorded for that, George?
Yeah, I wasn't able to comment at all because it wouldn't let me. It said that the host would unmute me and it didn't let me be unmuted.
Sorry, George. I think you had like 3 profiles and I just didn't see the one that maybe you were operating off of.
So can we go back for a
yes,
revisit?
we can go back. Yes, we can go back. And so yes, why don't we what is your yes, why don't we you have the floor.
Okay. I find that the minutes, I think that we should just have I think all the minutes should be forwarded to the task force members and for a final say and brought to the next meeting for a final vote. So all the minutes should be in some kind of PDF document shared, so we're all looking at it. I know Maggie has done a lot of work, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that the minutes are a true reflection and a true attest of what we've seen. Because I don't know if she's added things. I don't know if she put everything in there that I wanted to add right now. It's just, I don't have that information in front of me.
All right. So that is in terms of your comments. So what I'm going to do is Lamerci, here's how this process works, at least from Robert rules. You were the maker of the motion. So therefore, what George is asking is that basically that the vote be reopened to address his concern. So if you accept that, and the seconder, Dorothea, agrees with that, then we can open it up. We can have the discussion, and then which will include what George has just stated, and then we can take a vote on that. So just procedurally, will you, because his is in effect a friendly amendment. So if you accept it, then it comes back to Dorothea to do that. So you have to say you accept that. Dorothea, you as the seconder would have to accept it as well, and then we can go forward.
I accept it.
I accept also.
Okay, so now for the discussion, I see both your hands are up. I want to, it may be up to, on the other question, I want to deal with the issue here. I just want to get clarity. So it was my understanding that the minutes did go out. What you were saying, George, is that the minutes with the corrections were not received by the task force members?
Correct.
Okay, then I think is appropriate. So I think that what we should do is suspend. My recommendation here is based upon that representation is that we defer the vote until that is received, since you accept that friendly amendment, Lamerchi, and
Yeah.
that we have to vote it at a future meeting, all of these minutes. So just asking Maggie that happen, and prior to the next meeting, we can go forward. So if that's amenable, the vote is therefore that we will receive the minutes for approval after the task force members receive the revised minutes. And that's the vote that's before us. So all those in favor
Aye.
signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Yes, that's unanimously. Thank you very much.
Sheriff, point of order, just quick.
Mhm.
Can we just say 5 are in the affirmative and 0 abstentions, that we just have a quorum in process?
Well, we have a quorum, so we have a vote.
So I mean, just want to make sure that 5 people on the record, that there's no, 0 abstentions or 0 unheard of, just for the record.
That's fine in terms of the, we can do that. That's not a,
Thank you.
we can do that. That's fine. All right. Moving to the standard operating procedures. I see that, Dorothea, you have your hand up. Carrie, you have your hand up. So I'll go alphabetically since I don't know who put the hand up first. So Dorothea.
Okay, actually, my hand was up because we had made some recommendations as far as the minutes going forward, that the name of the person that is transcribing the minutes, the dates should be on every page, as well as any community responses that the community gives, the names of the person that makes the comment. I feel their name also should be in the minutes. So we had said that those were recommendations, but we didn't agree going forward. That would be the process for all of the minutes.
I think that
So-
the persons who are taking the minutes here, what the task force desires there. So let's see if that's accomplished in the next set of minutes that we do in fact receive. Now, again, this is very, very, I would just simply say for organizations that I sit with, we don't usually have it to that level of detail. You take it in the composite as to what the issue was, but if that's the desire, we hopefully will be able to capture the names and all the names are given. So when people are speaking at meetings, whoever is chairing that particular meeting should make sure that we get the name of the person who are speaking so that can be accomplished.
I think it's very, and this is what I had mentioned to Ajay. I think it's
Ajay, Dorothea.
RJ, I'm sorry. I think because this is a historical moment in the history of Boston, as well as for the Reparations Task Force, and we want to be as historically correct and accurate so that should somebody want to go back in 20 years and see where how far we have come in terms of ensuring that there is some form of redress for the city of Boston in terms of people of color or African people. I think that it's very, very important that we have the historical record accurate and correct, naming names and making sure everybody is listed for what their contributions are.
I think we hear you loud and clear, Dorothea, so my sense is that that will be what occurs going forward on the minutes. Thank you very much. Carrie?
I know that you had presented to propose motions just recently, but I was wondering if we can propose the motions after the procedural the procedural instructions so that we know like how, you know, before I put a motion on the floor, I want to know how we're going to vote to that motion first.
We're not
Yeah.
even there yet.
So we're
minute.
going to the right now on the, if we've included, because we went back to address the question with regards to the minutes. We're now to standing operating procedures, which you received, which address some of that. So are there questions to the standard operating procedure? I understand have been received by you.
Yeah, if we can just close out on the minutes, I just want to thank Maggie for taking all those suggestions and putting them down on paper. And, you know, just to let everybody know that I've noticed that we were backed up on this for 7 months, and I made sure, and every month over the last 7 months, I was pushing for us to make sure that we had these minutes on record as an official piece and so forth. So I just want to put that down for the record. Thank you.
On the standard operating procedures, are there any questions from the task force members?
Yes, I have a question.
So wait, Carrie, sorry, I'm more than happy to give a presentation first before we have reactions, unless your question is related to
go ahead. In terms of my thing is, if presentation is fine, I know that each one received it, but again, why don't you do it more broadly, because there's others on here as far as the community who have not received it, so that would be the correct thing to do. Go ahead, RJ.
Thanks, Chair. So yes, we sent a version of this to, or not a version of this, we sent this to the task force members about a week ago for review, and so where's it coming in? But just as a refresher, wanted to go through the different parts of it. So basically, it's just a document kind of outlining the basics of what the task force does and basic procedures for making decisions. So a lot of this is actually lifted straight from the ordinance. The duties and responsibilities, for example, is in that second page of the ordinance that sort of governs the responsibilities of the task force. And then the roles, as enumerated by the ordinance, the mayor shall designate a chair from amongst the task force members, and the chair will preside at all meetings of the task force. And then also, because of the sort of subgroups, which we'll get to in a second, the chair may also designate other officers for special responsibilities or projects within the task force's purview, and or preside over subgroups. And in the case where the chair is not present for a meeting, a temporary chair may preside over the meeting instead. For the definition of quorum, which is kind of just the number of people who are on the task force who need to be present for a meeting to be a public meeting, we defer to that definition from the open meeting law, which says that a majority of members then in office need to be in a meeting. By the mayor commensurate with their duties and expenses. Any consultants that are engaged to support the task force should also be compensated through the mayor's office. That could be included in cabinet requisite with City of Boston policies. In terms of public meetings, so notice of each meeting shall be provided as required under open meeting law. But you know, given engagement with the task force early in the process, we are expecting ourselves and are being held to the standard by the task force to submit public notice of meetings at least 10 days prior to a meeting to give adequate notice for the community ahead of meetings. As some community members noticed, I think after a long time coming, I know we've been working on trying to get meetings noticed as much as possible. We've posted meetings stretching all the way, I think, up until September for upcoming meetings. So hoping to maintain that sort of long notice for meetings. Agenda for public meetings. So meeting agendas will be proposed by the chair of the task force and subgroup leadership prior to notice. And then meeting structure, all public meetings shall begin with the language accommodations, which you heard earlier today. At the beginning, the task force will vote to approve minutes from the previous public meeting, something we're wanting to do starting next meeting. Staff will send those minutes to task force members at least 2 weeks prior to the coming meeting for review by the task force for feedback. And then meeting time will be used to report out any feedback provided by the task force prior to the meeting for transparency to ensure that everyone is aware of those edits that are being made. All public meetings shall include the opportunity for public comment, either in direct reaction to specific items in the agenda or as determined by the chair under old or new business. And public meetings shall follow the agenda as noticed prior to the meeting. The chair or whoever is designated to preside over the meeting as chair can use their discretion to advance or conclude discussion on pieces of the agenda. And then finally, and this is getting into the sort of decision-making pieces, in order to plan around and accomplish the specific tasks related to the core responsibilities in the ordinance of the task force, and you might remember that's those duties and responsibilities that is here, up here, A, B, C, D. The chair and the task force may choose to create and designate work to a subgroup of the task force. So this is a subset of the task force, not exceeding quorum, given specific responsibilities. So the two subgroups that folks might be aware of are the phase 1 RFP subgroup, which was the group of task force members that really worked on releasing that request for proposals that we put out to get researchers to work on the history and legacy of slavery report that is part of the initial responsibilities for the task force. And the other one that we currently have is the community engagement subgroup. There's a subset of the task force working on developing resourcing and mobilizing around a community engagement strategy for the task force. So these are the two that have currently meeting, but that's just to demonstrate, that responsibility or that ability of the task force to create subgroups. In terms of motions, the purpose of motions and votes during public meetings are to, in these sort of primary categories: 1, to deliberate on tasks directly related to the phases delineated in the ordinance; 2, create subgroups as a channel to handle specific work; 3, approve products from subgroup discussions, or deliberate over items on a case-by-case basis as determined by the chair. I think one sort of piece of feedback that we've heard, and this has been a long time coming from the task force, was that subgroups really allowed for space to develop new ideas as they come in a collaborative way. And so when there's sort of a new proposal or idea for discussion, unless there are exceptions, the sort of natural motion will be to have that proposal sent to the relevant subgroup, at which point the proposal can be discussed, and that'll ensure cohesion amongst task force members and full intention. And we can be specific too about mandates. So for example, let's say a idea sent over to the subgroup, we can make sure that the motion attached to it is the expectation of presentation out after the discussion at the next public meeting. So that ensures that there's accountability for discussion around those items. So that's the sort of proposed standard operating procedure that was sent out last week, and hopefully can provide a little bit of structure in terms of decision making. But yeah, I'm curious how this is landing for folks, and open to feedback and discussion. Chair, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much. Carrie, I know that you wanted to address that, so I'll go to you first.
Thank you. Two quick questions. My first one is, when you mean exceeding quorum, do you mean exceeding the number of votes that is of task force members present, or do you mean like the whole entire task force?
Good question. So quorum, so for example, we have 8 task force members. If in a meeting there are more than 4 task force members, then that automatically becomes a public hearing on the record. And so if a meeting exceeds quorum of that, that's the sort of definition. It's so present, I guess, your former option.
So for example, in terms of the subgroup, Carrie, that worked on, for instance, your subgroup that's dealing with the task force, there should not be more than 4 members that are on it. 5 would be, because you have to have a majority for a quorum. So I would say we would have no more than 4 members on there. I think there were 3 members that worked on the RFP. So we're concretizing that now to make sure that happens, so we don't become open meeting come under the open meeting law with regards to having to have a public meeting. If you exceed that, it's a public meeting. It's a public meeting. You cannot do it. Put it this way, in private, you have to have a public meeting. Otherwise, you violate the open meeting rules.
Thank you. And then for my second question, you know, I don't want to expedite going to the motions right now before anybody else has questions, but can I present my motions after this portion now that I know how the voting processes work?
Yeah,
Why don't you?
absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Go ahead.
Yes. We have, there is going to be a process which I believe, RJ, you're going to be walking us through the motions that have been brought on the table by Member Greenwich. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I think first we have to vote to approve.
Yeah, well, I know we have to vote this. Yeah,
procedure.
we got to vote the standard operating procedure. Yes, but
then
I
after
just
that,
want
right,
I
we'll
just
go
want to
through
be
the-
able to respond to Carrie's question as to whether. So we're going to do that after we do the standard operating procedure, Carrie. That's what I wanted to be able
Yes,
to make
sir.
clear. Is that fine with you, Carrie?
Awesome. Yep.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to accept the standard operating procedures which were provided to each member, but also reviewed here at this meeting presented here at this meeting by RJ. So I entertain a motion.
I have a couple of questions before that, but you decide how you want to go forward.
Well, let's see if we have a motion first with a second, and then I'll open it up for discussion. So is there a motion to accept the standard operating procedures?
I make a motion that Dorothea Jones, I make a motion that we accept the standard operating procedures as we have received in our email.
Right. Is there a second?
Is there a specific terminology or word we want to use to say yes and no? Because I'm simple. I'll just say yes or I or whatever you guys want.
Yeah,
to use.
where we haven't gotten it, we haven't gotten to that. You can say it in either way. You can raise your hand. You can say aye. You can say yes. In terms of whichever way, it's just a matter of you indicating what your vote is. Because we're taking a voice vote. We're not taking a roll call vote.
Okay.
So in terms of so it's a voice vote. But before I can take a vote, there's a motion that's on the table. It's been motioned or moved. There is no second yet for what the motion put forward by Dorothea Jones. So it's for one of a second at the moment.
Okay. Well, I agree with the standard operating procedure.
Okay, so are you seconding the motion?
I am I'm gonna use the language seconding the motion.
Second vote. Okay, now has been properly moved and seconded. Now, is there any discussion on the motion? And George, I think you said you had a question. So
Yeah, I had a couple of questions on the wording of the document. I just want to know who wrote the document.
It was a collaboration between staff for the initial, and then we sort of passed over to the chair to look over, and then we sent it over to the task force.
So is this the city's document or the chair's document?
it is it's the task force's document because this is what the motion is presented. This is the task force's document. That's why it's presented to the task force.
Well,
there were persons who were involved with the drafting of it, but this is, if adopted by the task force, is the task force's document.
Well, there are several pieces of language that I'm not comfortable with. The first thing is that this was supposed to go to a subcommittee that we decided in July, in the July minutes, that myself and chair were supposed to be a part of. So therefore, I was not able to add my comments to this document at all. And so therefore, I'd like to put a pause on it because I shared that there are other ways of actually moving this document as well. There's the standard Robert's Rules of Order, and also there's a Martha's Rules of Order that can also be incorporated in this document that opens the process a little bit more open for the community to actually see this. Another piece of this document is that I'm kind of taken back by the city to recommend such a document because the document's pretty much, in my view, totalitarian in approach, and also it's kind of draconian in the way that it's looking at ways of how to address and community and also hearing voice. Another piece as well is that This is not a task force of 20 people. This is a task force of 5 or more people. So a lot of these ordinance, and I have specific pieces around the motions, is that some motions that necessarily do not need to go through a whole kind of subcommittee process. There are only 5 people on this committee. So therefore, I think those motions actually need to be brought up to the task force and should be voted on as such. There are many revisions that I have on this, and I think this should go back to a committee or to several members to review. And also that I also believe that we should also review the Martha's Rules of Order as well as the Roberts Rules of Order, because necessarily a lot of this stuff that's written in here does not actually fall under Roberts Rules of Order. My opinion.
Thank you for your comments, George. Are there any other questions or comments that task force member would like to make with regards to what's on the motion on the table?
Are we going to continue the vote?
Oh, yes, we are. This is I haven't called the question yet. Right now, it's open for discussion, Carrie. So if there's anyone else, I'll call the vote when there's no longer any questions or comments by task force members.
So I think what I did, I'm not sure, was put this as a friendly amendment to actually review this document with some more eyes on it, and making sure that that task force members voices are actually being able to be pushed forward without it just feels a very chair-centric process, and I don't know who wrote it like that. But I'm not comfortable with the document at all. That it's a very chair-centric process. And then
George, George, listen. Let me get you straight. Let me just get you straight on, okay? You can have your viewpoints, etc. I'm older than you, and I've also been around longer than you, and I've been involved in more organizations than you. So let's not get into that. If you don't like the document, that's your opinion. Now, I'm trying to follow the procedures as they're outlined. I know Robert's rules probably better than most. So my only sense is I've allowed you to give your comment. If you want to put what you said in the form of a friendly amendment, if the maker of the motion wants to accept that, then that's how we proceed. If they do not, I'll call the question on the motion that's before us. So the maker of the motion, so first and foremost, I would like you to characterize what you have said as that you're offering that as a friendly amendment to the maker of the motion. So as like Dorothea said, we can make sure we memorialize all the things that are stated at our meeting. So if you want to make that in the form of a friendly amendment, please state it in that form, and I will ask the maker of the motion whether she accepts it. And then also for the person with the second. So if you would do that, please, that would be appreciated.
I'm offering a friendly amendment for this to go back to a committee and to just revise some of the language. I don't want to get into the nits and pieces in this meeting right here.
Don't want you to do that. We've heard you, and it's just so you want to offer that as a friendly amendment. Dorothea, what say you?
Dorothea, you're muted.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I think that there has to be a way that we can go forward in our work as task force members. I feel that the information, if we received it 2 weeks ago, I think the information should have been any amendment should have been proposed so that we all had an opportunity to look at them. I will at this time agree to the friendly amendment, but I think going forward, anytime information has been received within 10-day prior notice, I think we need to approve our work and continue to go forward.
You would.
So I accept all of that to say that I can accept a friendly amendment this time.
The Lamercia, you would have won, I believe, the second. No, Carrie, I'm sorry, you seconded that. So are you seconding the inclusion of the friendly amendment?
Yes.
All right. Then let me call the question. The question is that standing operating procedures will go back to the task force members and for review and revision, and will be entertained, I suspect, at a future meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair is opposed to the motion. Okay.
Chair, can I just make a comment? It's just about,
No, not
no,
at
it's
this
just
time.
about it's a point of information.
No.
We did not receive this document 2 weeks ago. We received it on
Yeah.
March 5th. So I
Okay.
just want to make sure
Yeah.
that's not, she said 2 weeks ago, it wasn't 2 weeks ago, we received it on March 5th. So that is incorrect.
Okay, well, more importantly, you've gotten your friendly amendment, so you have an opportunity now to look at it until you are and can present something which the task force in total will be in favor of. So now there are, yes, Carrie?
Are we only because I feel like some of the operating procedures document does give some structure that it helps me to know how to navigate this process. Can we still use certain aspects of the operating procedures that we see best fit to vote moving forward?
No, the vote that you just taken says there's no operating procedures that we have. Apparently, we differ as with regards to how we will handle that process. So until that issue is resolved, we will be having some nice conversations, but without a procedure.
So how do we vote? Is it just yes or no? Is that it?
I don't understand what you mean. How would you vote? There's
Point of clarification.
In terms of, I don't understand what you mean. How would you vote, Carrie?
Like, for instance, if there is matters about the subcommittee, I mean, it's about making amendments. It's not about not using the standard operating procedures at all. At least that's what I understood. I understood that we can make a friendly amendment to adding on to or reevaluating the standard operating procedures. That doesn't mean that we totally throw it away and not use any structure.
Well, in charge,
That's how I understood it.
unfortunately, what is not, or what we're going to go forward, Carrie, is in terms of what we're going to, and we'll just struggle along until such time. As far as we put forward the standard operating procedure, and I would just simply say, for the record as well, I would encourage folks to go back and read 268A. Which has the procedures for open meeting laws. There is that document gives significant authority for this process to the chair. But I'm not interested in getting into a battle. I'm not interested in being, as was being suggested, that this is chair driven or chair kingship. So what I'm saying, I'm trying to get a process for us to do the work that the ordinance stated for us to do.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah, so the question is, we can't get there. I say if you're asking the question, can you proceed with what you were doing with your subgroup for the community process? The answer is yes. If that's what you're asking.
So in that, I mean, I don't want to make another friendly amendment, but
let's get off the procedure. So what are you asking, Carrie? So we can see if we can clarify for you.
I'm asking to return my vote to agree with the standard of operating procedures with the friendly amendment, with the opportunity to bring in the friendly amendment.
Oh, yeah, well, in terms of the friendly, that's already been voted on.
So
right, but people were able to change their votes just now. That's why.
No. Okay. Are you saying that you were asking, well, what happened in the process was this, just let me explain. There was a motion that was put on the table by Dorotheus, seconded by you, which was for the standard operating procedure.
Right.
The Member Greenwich offered a friendly amendment, which was accepted by the maker of the motion, and you accepted it as the person who seconded that motion, because that's what needed to happen. If you didn't second it, it wouldn't go forward with the friendly amendment. The original motion would have been on the table. So therefore, we then voted on that we would defer the standard operating procedure until such time as the process that was proposed by Member Greenwich was considered by the task force. And that was voted on. And it was 4 votes, I would suspect, voice votes anyway, in favor. I voted in opposition. So that's where we are. So it passed. So that's where we are. There are no, the standard operating procedures were not adopted.
Please also note that we haven't been operating under standard operating procedures for 13 months, Carrie.
Okay, I understand that. What I'm saying is,
Clear.
I originally want to second my motion that Dorothea had first put on the floor. That's it.
Yeah, I understand, but unfortunately, we're past that for now. So why don't we just move on? And with that being said, with no standing operating procedures, I'm not going to entertain the issue with regards to the motions that we were talking about. I'm not going to entertain that at this meeting until such time as we have the standard operating procedures. So with that, I'm going to open it up for public comment. I say to the public, the items on the agenda was what we were just discussing, which were some of the administrative processes for the task force. That's what the public comment is directed towards. So I ask you to keep your comments or questions if you have any to that. I see Amanda Kay has had her hand up for some time. So Amanda Kay, unmute yourself, or if the host can unmute her.
There you go, Amanda. You should be able to.
I recuse myself.
Thank you. Do you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, yes.
So I just had one question and then another one was a comment. My
Okay, well,
first
Amanda, can you
question
first,
was around,
could you give your full name, please? Because we're trying to have that, make sure we have our records very clear.
okay, my name is Amanda Kufo.
Okay, could you spell that just in case so we have it correctly? Your last name?
Kufuor.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
So I
Amanda.
had one question and then
Mhm.
one question and one comment. The first
Okay.
question was just around, as I'm listening to all this about the procedural operations and how you all want to navigate this, given that there seems to have been a vote on not moving forward with what was proposed today to create more time for folks to discuss more, what are your future meetings going to look like in terms of how you vote, how you discuss, and how you have conversations until that decision has come to a conclusion? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I would say to you that, Amanda, and thank you very much for that question. The procedural questions that were talked about today are, from my perspective, are not going to impede what the ordinance requires or dictated that the task force do. So such as the community process that was discussed in the ordinance at the appropriate time, what we have already undertaken with the selection of our researchers for it. Those processes are going to continue on. These matters here as to who says what and who does what, we'll work all of that through, but we're going to continue to go forward. If you look on the city website for the Reparations Task Force, there are dates and meetings that have been that are on there. So we will proceed and we'll just see how it works out. I can't predict the future, but my hope is that we will be able to get through this process very, very quickly.
All right, thank you, Joseph. And then just
Okay.
my last comment was just for the cabinet members, just I think, based on how this conversation has went, for me, I've had a lot of experience in just being a lot of committees, organizations, and just working in operations, and I just want to like really urge members of the cabinet to just think about making sure that we don't get into analysis paralysis, just because I know that sometimes that happens a lot in committees, and we really want things to work out really well, and we want it to be effective, so people are really concerned and making sure that they're voicing their opinions and making sure that things come out smoothly, especially how important this work is. But also I want to make sure that folks moving forward keep in mind, we can also fall into a pitfall where we just overthink a lot and overdo it sometimes, and next we haven't moved forward because we're trying to make it so perfect. So to make room in your voting decisions moving forward, to make room to make decisions where you can leave room for risks, and just have a risk management assessment type of perspective in terms of decisions, and allow things to go even if there's a little room for error. That way we can at least move forward, because I know the work y'all are doing is really important, and just wanted to put that out there as a community member, for folks who are are part of this cabinet, to really think about those things moving forward. And thank you for your work.
Thank you very much, Amanda. I believe Antonia and then Juwan. Antonia Edwards. Yeah, you're on mute, Antonia. Antonia, you're on mute. Can someone, do you need to,
Yeah,
does the host
I
need
got
to
it.
Yes,
unmute
here
her?
I go.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank
I
you.
was
Yes, thank
clicking
you.
it. I was
I'm
clicking
sorry.
it. Sorry about that, Antonio.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. I was trying to
Okay.
unmute myself. I want to say good evening to everybody and thank you guys for all the hard work you're doing. I know it's extremely difficult, to get this stuff put together. I just want to say thank you for your interview with regards to the $15 billion cash payments to people. I think that you handled it very eloquently and also extremely articulate. I wanted to also ask, just so there's no confusion, because it seems as though there's a lot of confusion with this task force is really here for, to gear people back to the ordinance, and remind them that you're saying the reason for the whole ordinance is to explore the harms that were done for purposes of reparations for lineage based for those who descend from slavery in the U.S. And I think that if we keep reminding people of that, then that may deter some of this outlandish behavior and demands on the outside. But I just want to commend you first for giving a, hellified interview. And I really think it was very articulate and very eloquent in the way in which you handled it. And I think it means a lot for you to have stepped forward and this gave the answers that you gave. And I want to commend you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Thank you very much.
Chair, I have no clue what she's talking about.
Fine. Juwan Skeens, do you want to, Ms. Edwards, could you unmute her once again, RJ, if you have her muted?
Yes, I'm talking about the grassroots organizations that put a demand on the mayor and the Reparations Task Force for 15 billion cash payments, direct payments to all Black people in Boston.
Right.
Reparations is not about all Black people in Boston.
Yeah.
And I think that it puts a lot of pressure on the task force. And I think that the way in which Mr. Feaster handled it with his interview was very eloquent in the way in which he handled it. I think that the grassroots organizations are putting the cart before the horse and not allowing the task force to do what they need to do, but also not reminding themselves that this is all about descendants of those who were enslaved in the US and not necessarily anybody who's melanated. And I really want to commend you again for your answers and how you handled it.
Thank you.
Can you just quickly say what interview it was and where is it?
It was one on WBUR,
okay.
Which you received a copy of. Juwan Skeens?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Boston Reparations Task Force, for hosting this meeting today. I definitely wanted to echo, the comments before me, letting you know that I understand this is a difficult process, as you guys are trying to put all these pieces together. Definitely, I definitely want to make sure that, this is as democratic, right, process as possible. Where we're putting democracy first in all steps. So making sure that everybody has a chance to review any pieces of information before they come to the meeting, and, offering their amendments or whatever, just to make I'm all about transparency and effectiveness, when it comes to this process. The next comment that I have is it possible that we can start to create a flyer for outreach to these events? I know we just, sent an email and there was just a Zoom invite attachment. I would like to see a little bit more flyers to get people more engaged in this process. And yeah, from there, just if we can just I want to know why exactly, I think I seen a comment that 2026 is when all the research would be ready to go. Can you clarify that? Why can't we finish the research within the next 3 months? What is exactly the hold on that? Thank you.
Ron, there's two things I'm just going to answer just in terms of kind, because this is really beyond the scope of what this meeting is about, but I will give you the courtesy since we have a little bit of time in order to do so. We have been very, very clear on the first matter. Again, we're going to follow the open meeting law, and as was discussed, we go beyond that in terms of dealing with the emails. Any other process beyond that is not something right now that the task force is prepared to undertake. So while it may be desirous, individuals, you're free to take the information that's on the website and disseminate that as broadly as you may wish to in order to do that. On the other one, we've been clear that in terms of that we are required under the ordinance to do the appropriate research in phase one. The research will take the time it takes in which to do it. And so as soon as we've engaged our researchers, they're going to begin their work. And it is anticipated that is going to take them maybe to the end of the year in order to do that. The second phase of that, once we have received their input and the research, is for this task force to take that information in concert with discussions and deliberations with the community, getting the community's feedback, is to then in phase two to make the recommendations to the mayor as to what the form of reparations that the city of Boston should take. And then lastly, and it may not be this task force that does this, is the action plan of what is proposed for reparations, how that would be implemented and operationalized by the city of Boston. However it takes. Everyone says that they want to throwing out numbers. Everyone talks about a time frame, but I just say to you, we've been at this for 400 years. I think we can take the time to be able to do it correctly by getting the appropriate research. So that's the process we're going to follow, and we're going to follow what the ordinance says that we are mandated in order to do. So it'll take the time that it has to get it done. So I don't see any other hands. I don't see anything. Is there anything in the chat at all that I need to consider? Juwan, I've answered your question. I'm sorry, that's it.
Yeah, I have a separate question, Joseph.
I know you might, but in terms of I've answered your question, and so if you want to, you can do the comment on the website. You can do it do it there. You can put it in the chat, and we may be able to respond back to you in that regard. But
okay,
but I'm not going to take another. I'm not going to take another question at this particular point in time.
I just wanted to know how long this group is going to be together, Joseph.
It'll right now in again, I would just ask for you to take a look at the ordinance. The ordinance has us until such time as we make the request to be extended. We are technically would be out of business in December 31st, 20 of this year, but I am certain that we will make a request to the mayor in order to be able to extend that time, because we will not have completed our work. And I'm sure that the mayor and the city council would support that. Okay. Ramona Brown. RJ, can you unmute Ramona Brown, please?
Okay. Hi,
Ms.
can
Brown?
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, let me just start off to say, I'm glad that I was invited to this meeting. Someone called me in connection with the task force and let me know that there's virtual community meetings. And I'm like, okay. So, I appreciate that. And I also want to say to the whole team in the task force that, I commend you and I want to thank you for working on behalf of the reparations remedy for the descendants, specifically the descendants of slaves in the Boston, Massachusetts, or state of Massachusetts. I just want to put that out there first. So yeah, the question I had, because I do know how to do research myself, because of my educational training and because I just do it on my own also, when it comes to research. And when I heard of the task force, I just kind of looked over at my library. That's pretty much how what I thought about or what I could use in research, and also the other tools that we have available to us, which is the internet. But I had a question because not only am I glad to be at this meeting for the first time, but I also wanted to know, as a community person, coming in as a person to this meeting, I wanted to know, how could I or other community people or people within the state of Massachusetts, how could we uh, help the task force without being a part of the task force, and what is the extent of that help? So that's more or less the question I had, because I wouldn't mind bringing something in. I mean, if it would possibly help on the research side. So that's one of the only questions I have. And
Okay.
thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. The process that I was referring to earlier about the selection of our researchers, we went through in the process of developing a request for a proposal, and we have two research teams who are looking at the research stemming from 1620 to the present time as it relates to Boston's connection to the slave trade and the benefits therefrom. So that's what the analysis or the research that will be undertaking. The way that the community can be most helpful in this process is, one, you can participate in the meetings. Member Carrie Mays is the person who will be chairing community meetings as we talk about as we go forward, in terms of the community process. Personally, on my side, the community is going to be most helpful to the task force is when we're getting into the deliberations as to what form reparations should take. If you're getting into a lot of the reading that's going on across the country, and in fact, within the state of Massachusetts right now, many communities are talking about what form reparations should take. We're nowhere near that stage because we have yet to get the research back. So quite frankly, that will be the time in which we will I say, the most intricate time in which the community can be helpful. But I certainly say to participate in the meetings that are certainly that member Carrie Mays will be chairing in terms of a process. And she will be able to, she and the members that will be participating in that would be able to keep the community informed. And the other way is a matter, if you have comments, there's a way in which to go on the website, boston.gov, in terms of for reparations, put your comments there. There are going to be oral history research that the research is going to be doing. If you have information that you can share with that, then certainly that would be ways in which you can participate. But one would be by attending these meetings, Ms. Brown.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Just
you're
curious.
welcome. And it's just been put in in the chat. You would go online to reparations, boston.gov. So, all right. I don't see any other raised hands. I don't see that there's any other business that's before the body. So I want to bid everyone a good night. I want to thank you for participating. I want to thank the members, And I want to thank the community members who are present here this evening. And certainly I want to thank the members of the staff that have been helpful.
I have a question. So we're not voting on anything tonight.
No, we are not.
Okay, just wanted
Okay. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.